Hi everyone, it's Stacey Byerly. I'm here with my friend Simona, and we're just going to have a conversation about the 5 love languages. So, what was your favorite part of the book of the 5 love languages?
Okay, so aloha everyone, first of all. um, so I have to say that I discovered the book several years ago, like probably about 7, 8 years ago.
Hmm.
And it was mentioned by a person, in the shop that I was managing back then. And I was very curious and I went to check it out on Google. And the fact that this subtitle says The Secret to Love That Lasts
Mhm.
was really what caught my attention. And because I was going through a divorce.
Yeah.
I was at the end of my marriage. So of course that was like what really caught my attention. And I went to buy the book and I couldn't wait to get on it and understand more about the book. And when I think the first part where it explains a little bit about why after the marriage, after the wedding, after a while after the wedding, like everything goes like bleh. And hmm, the the best part of the book, I think for me, was that helped me discover something about myself. I had no idea what was my love language.
Yeah. And neither did I. And I discovered it in 2020. I found it on YouTube. I guess you can count that as piracy. I don't know. But I listened to the entire book in one sitting in
Oh,
2020. I was
wow.
like, whoa. Whenever I find a book that's really, really well written and really impactful, I just absorb it. It's like, okay. And then, I started putting it into practice, and I found that my love languages are quality time, physical touch, and words of affirmation for my top 3. And the rest of them are gift giving. And I think I'm missing one.
Acts of service.
Acts of service. You
Yeah,
can always, as we said before recording, you tend to forget one that's not really your forte.
totally. Yeah.
But yeah, I really absorbed that. And I was like, huh. So that's why I enjoy hugs and like just being with people, is because that's my love language. And
Yes. Yes.
if everyone knew these concepts, the book's been out for a while, but I still meet people that don't know how to communicate with that.
So true. I agree.
And as society has evolved, the archetypes are changing. So what way have you seen the archetypes change?
Um, do you mean like the shift in the roles?
Yeah, shift in roles, shift in archetypes
Yes.
of relationships, and just general communication.
Yeah. So uh it's yeah, it's a very interesting question. Like I'm from Italy, right? So I
Mhm.
come from a culture and a tradition that is I think they call it matriarchal,
Mhm.
where like the woman is the one that is the pillar for the family
Mhm.
and of the home.
Mhm.
So home is the woman
Mhm.
because it takes care of the partner, it takes care of the kids, it takes care of the family in general, therefore relationships with the family members, that takes care of the house as per
Mhm.
chores, food, you know, cooking, making sure that the house is clean. And I am the first woman in my entire ancestry line from both my father and my mother that completely changed this archetype, this
Mhm.
concept
Yeah, you
by
kind of broke the mold, right?
Yeah. I broke that. I completely broken that that line of like, yeah, that paradigm that women have to be home and everything. So yeah, I like, I'm divorced, I don't have children, and I'm a businesswoman.
Yeah. And that's kind of how it's shifted. That's really how
Yeah.
the societal roles have shifted. And Gary Chapman, the author of the book, really uh, touches on this midway through the book of like, this is how things have changed. And now here's how to communicate in that realm of things. So here's a language to communicate in. If we're not communicating well, just learn to speak each other's love language, whether that
Yeah.
be acts of service or words of affirmation. So describe a little bit about your learning curve, learning someone else's love language.
Yeah. I just wanted to add one thing, like, because we're talking about the love languages, just it's so important that this shift in roles and archetypes is happening, I believe, because basically in past, we were sort of like, women were sort of forced to be on the language of acts and service.
Mhm. Right.
And
And
they
I get
couldn't really express or receive their real love language,
right.
right?
And I
This
grew
is
up in
like
in a
an insight
similar
that I
way.
got at the moment, and I had to share. Like, yeah, just
Yes.
think about it, how like, like being more free of expressing the our own love languages,
Yeah.
it definitely helped in the shift of these roles and these archetypes.
Yeah. And the shift in roles is really important in just observing that things aren't as they used to be. I grew up in a similar household where, you know, the woman did a lot for the first half of my life, and then I um, was with a single mother and a single father. That was like, now they're doing everything. And then I
Yeah.
noticed that as people have less time because they've had to make that shift, they don't necessarily take the time to give authentic love,
Yeah.
which authentic love can be given in their language or the child's language, but learning the child's language is very important when you're very young.
Super important.
It's super important because if we don't feel the safety, security, and love when we're feeling very, very young, when we are very young, then it kind of evolves into us trying to find that in another relationship,
Yes.
whether that's with grandparents or future partners, that sort of thing. What's been your experience with having to adapt to somebody's relationship, love language relationship?
Okay. I can also see a huge difference in the way when I started adopting and realizing, like
Mhm.
practicing the
Right.
love language that it wasn't mine. So mm, when I was little, of course, like, until I read this book, I had no clue about my real love language, as we said
Mhm.
before. So I figured, after taking the test and just even reading the book itself, I was like, whoa, it was so clear, crystal clear for me, is my first love language is physical touch.
Mhm.
And second, almost like very close in score, are quality time and words of affirmations. The other two basically have no, they're not a deal for me.
Right.
um Growing up, I have mm, whenever I was getting in trouble, I was doing something wrong, as a child.
Mhm.
The punishment for me was to have my parents withdrawing from affection, showing affection,
Mhm.
right? So if my mom would have normally picked me up and I don't know, put me on her laps, or my dad
Mhm.
used to like could show me, like could hug me. If I would do something wrong, they would, ground me in a corner and
Mhm.
withdraw from any affection,
Mhm.
physical touch, right? So
Right.
that created, like, I know now, also being a theta healer, where
Yeah.
all the trauma of the fear of being abandoned comes from.
Yeah, and what that actually does is withdrawing the love language actually solidifies trauma and solidifies,
Yes.
like, really, if we dig down deep into it, unworthy of love, unworthy of affection,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it takes a while to unravel that for some
Yes.
people.
Yes. It
And
takes a lot of work and self-awareness. Yeah.
yeah.
The big change that I notice is, like, for example, in my last two relationships, right, that were pretty important to me, my marriage and my last relationship, which was a few years ago. It was so hard to make them work, really, because our languages were extremely different, but we didn't really put the commitment or the work, I guess, to try to find the middle ground, right? So
Mhm.
if, for me, a way of feeling loved and appreciated is like a hug, a little
Mhm.
touch, a pat on the back,
Mhm.
like a caress, a kiss. My partner had no grew up in an environment where physical touch was non-existing,
Mhm.
and it was all about words of affirmation. And that really was a big obstacle, because it was so hard to
Mhm.
connect, because he wouldn't feel loved when I would be like, he would come at me with a gazillion of ideas every day. And for me, being a super practical, touchy person, it was definitely like I could, like, mm, mock it,
Mhm.
mock his idea sometimes,
Mhm.
not willing to make him feel, bad, but of course, and that would bring us a lot of disagreement, because
Mhm.
for me it was like, I don't know, like, hold my hands, like, whatever, hold my hand when we're walking, be nice, make me feel your presence. And for
Mhm.
him it was like, talk to me, encourage me, and it was like a mess.
Yeah, it's a mess if it's a miscommunication like that. For
Yeah.
me, in my specific situation, it was like, the blend that I have is like, all I really cared about in any of my relationship is like, okay, we're gonna sit together and do something, or something cooperative,
Yeah, quality time.
quality time is the best thing for me. And
Let's have like meaningful conversations. Let's not
right.
talk about the weather.
Yeah. and and not having that in a relationship for me would be like, what is this person? Now that I've read the book and I've kind of put a lot of the principles into practice, I can recognize, oh, this person speaks this language. So, okay,
Yeah.
let me respond in that language. And, I know how to respond in that language better than I ever have been, but to really get down deep into it, that's my needs, is quality time and physical touch, which is, they kind of really go hand in hand, pun
I
intended.
guess so. I think so.
Because I
Yeah.
mean, it really takes time to touch a person. you know you actually have to think about it. In my brain, that's kind of my thing. It's like,
Oh, see, instead for me, being my main love language, it's totally like intuitive and instinctive. I don't know, like with my partner now, um, his main love language, like his first love language is words of affirmation. And
Mhm.
then I believe like he has like quality time and physical touch that are very close, very balanced.
Mhm.
So we make sure that we practice each other's love language. But for example, when he comes home from work at night, like the first thing that I do, I speak my love language. So I go get him at the car when he parks in the yard. When he gets in,
Mhm.
I go greet him. And the first thing that he does, because he knows me,
Mhm.
we hug and it's a kiss.
Mhm.
And then because I know his love language, it's like, hey, how was your day? And we try to have like a quick conversation where I can reassure him how much I appreciate him for driving 2 or 3 hours a day back and forth from the North Shore to
Mhm.
his job, you know, and how much I appreciate the fact that he's a freaking hard worker because he leaves at 6 in the morning, comes home at 7:30 at night.
Right.
So I can, you know, we can really be like connected,
Yeah.
so
Eh,
paying attention to each other and making sure that we both feel loved.
Right. So how do we take that relationship advice, which is supremely solid, and apply that to everyday relationships? How do you do that?
Hmm.
Well, I don't mean to say that it isn't an everyday relationship, but like, how do you communicate with your friends?
Yeah. Well, I think the most important thing to do is starting with the self.
Yeah, figuring
Do you
out
agree with that?
what's, oh yeah, yeah. Starting with the self and figuring out what makes yourself tick in all areas, whether your words of affirmation, or gift giving if you really like things, or whatever love language you speak, it's important to know your own.
Yeah, but also give it to yourself so
Hmm.
you can fill your cup not only by from others but also within, right?
Right.
So you're more inclined and happier probably to be um meeting other people needs as per love languages, as per communication of.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly. And that's a really good point, is really focusing on oneself is perhaps the most important thing, because if
yeah,
you don't know what to give yourself or what you enjoy, then you don't know what to tell the other person, or
yeah,
what to communicate to the other person, whether that
yeah.
be verbal or nonverbal.
There is one part in the book that also says that when as a child, our love language is not really understood.
Hmm.
It basically we shut off, right?
Hmm.
So we got disconnected from those emotions, certain emotions, like
Hmm.
expressing freely and authentically the
Hmm.
self.
Hmm.
And I think in yeah, now it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And
Eh,
especially now with the whole isolation of the last 2 and something years now, 2 years.
yeah. And that really isolation for people who have certain love languages, that's really, it's been a very tough time for them. So
Yeah, absolutely.
and so again, going back to really knowing yourself and how to give
Yeah.
that to yourself is really something we all need to learn and perfect and
Yeah.
hone, so we have our own needs taken care of.
Yeah.
That's
Self
super important.
recovery. self-understanding.
Yeah, self-discovery, self-understanding, and really understanding how to relate what you do to other people
Yes.
in all relationships, because you can mean an act of service as love, but they may not receive that act of service, or
Exactly.
they won't receive it quite in the same way. And it also, we could get into it to a conversation about tone of voice, the situation, that all plays a part in what goes on within the love languages. So there's different dialects,
Yes.
and Gary goes into in depth about when it's appropriate, when it's not appropriate, when to communicate, how to communicate, and how to just flow with the situation. That's kind of what I got from it, is how to flow with the situation, not just do one thing always.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I wanted to say something, it just slipped my mind. Oh, yes. You were asking me like if there is a suggestion.
Mhm.
What I would like to suggest eventually is to develop compassion and empathy,
Mhm.
because okay, so personally my own definition of compassion and empathy are slightly different,
Mhm.
because in energy work also they come from two different areas of the body.
Mhm.
Empathy comes more from the solar plexus,
Mhm.
and the compassion comes from the heart.
Right.
Without empathy and without compassion, you probably, like a person wouldn't even want to do this work,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
To try to communicate in the best way and the highest way for the both involved,
Right.
whether it's no matter the kind of relationship, right?
Mhm. No matter the kind of relationship, it's the goal is to not be robotic in a
Yes.
relationship. I feel is
Very closed off. Yeah.
very closed off. A, B, C, done. That's not how everyone
Yes.
works.
Oh yeah, I have a little chart here. Oh, this is what I have to say. This is what I have to do. Okay, check, bye.
Yeah, exactly.
Not
And that,
really like that.
yeah, that's really, some people work like that. It's like very task based, and that's fine. But like, there's a time for task based stuff and time for and really getting to know a person and really just kind of rolling with the punches, I guess, or rolling with the situation. And that's very important when discovering somebody else's love language, and really being with it, learning how to speak their own love language, and really putting in work, because as we all know, relationships are work,
Yeah.
are a lot of work, is what I'm saying. Is it's a lot of work, but they're very fruitful. They're very fruitful. To give and receive love is a wonderful thing. So
Yes.
it's a wonderful thing to be human.
And it totally make our lives better, especially
Mhm.
our daily life. And it brings more, I believe, also more appreciation for the self and the other person.
Yeah, more appreciation for the self, more appreciation for um just life in general. So talking about having your love tank full, think of it as waking up in one day and feeling, I am worthy, I am unworthy.
Yeah.
And
I'm enough. I'm not
yes,
enough.
yeah. So having the love tank empty is like, I don't feel right, I don't feel worthy, I don't feel like today's going to be a good day. By
Totally.
learning your love language and your partner's love language and your friends' love languages will help keep that full. So when you do encounter situations where, people are not as compassionate as they could be, or,
Mm.
the random person on the street, that says something, it doesn't affect you quite as much. Is conversely, if your love tank is empty, it's like you tend to take on everything.
Yes.
So really developing your self-love, your love language, and learning how to speak the other love language, or at least recognize them, is really an awesome thing to do. Just keeping your own, I guess I'd say, worthiness intact. Does that sound right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I believe when we start learning more about ourselves, discovering more about ourselves is it definitely allows us to also connect with others in a different way. So probably we feel more like I'm good. I feel good about like observing the other person, whether it's a friend, my child, whoever, right? My mother. Oh, actually, how do they receive? How do they give? And it's not only about like, I mean, love is everything.
Yeah,
Love
love
is
is
like
everything.
my partner says, and that was like kind of like it blew my mind the way you put it down. Very simple. Is that love is a byproduct,
Mm-hmm.
especially in a relationship, like romantic relationship, but in every kind of relationship. Love is a byproduct of kindness, respect, and honesty. And these are actually the three, for me, is also food. But anyway.
Yes, me too, actually.
Actually, Kana and I said once, was like, oh, in Grady Chapman forgot one love language, food. I think it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's the food is a big deal. And that's,
All our grandmas know these too.
yeah. It's like grandma made this, and it's like,
Right?
I
Yeah.
really like the apple pie or whatever that is.
Yeah.
What your favorite dessert is.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, the way that my grandma always said, and I know in Hawaii and in the Philippines they say the same. I don't know about you, your family. Both my grandmas used to say, the way to a man's heart is through their stomach.
Yeah. Yes.
It is totally like a love language to me. But anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It's and that's really good. And he does touch on that a little bit. He doesn't spend too much time on food itself, but
food.
he says that it's like a gift and an act of service. So it's like,
yeah, it's in there. Yeah,
it's like,
right.
think of food as a combo language.
Yeah, but if I look at it like, right, we're talking about like the byproduct love, byproduct of kindness, respect, and honesty. Look at these three things. If we're not able to give ourselves kindness, love, like respect and honesty, how are we able to give it outside?
Yeah, how are we able to radiate it if you don't know how to even start the spark, in other words?
Yeah.
So that's one of the most interesting things, is learning how to go from just a spark to radiation, is basically figuring out, how do I fill my own and how do I relate to another person?
Totally.
That is super important. So
yeah, I'm curious about something, Stacey. Like you have been reading the single version, which I have the feeling that it focuses on like giving to the self, like speaking the self-love language, right?
A little bit, yeah. But it's more of like thinking of it in a dating context. in a dating
Oh,
context,
I see.
learning how to do that in a nice way in a dating context is like
Okay.
understanding. And don't even get me started on the whole text message thing.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. No, yeah, I was curious if it's like single intending like the person that is single and not even dating. So now it's interesting. So basically it's for it when a person is at the beginning dating and
yeah,
therefore like just getting to know the person.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, a person or like the person that they're dating or several person that they're dating. That's interesting.
yeah. So it's in a dating context. He comes from a Gary Chapman comes from a I think he's a Christian background, so it is Christian focused, but it's like, how do we
I talked a
relate?
lot about churches.
Right. So, and I've got no problem with that, but that
Oh, me neither.
it's focused on really marriage is the end goal.
Yes.
But it's more of like how to communicate your love language to other people, I feel, as far as non like living with them relationships. It talks about the mother, it talks about doing it with your father, doing it with
Mhm.
your immediate family. So it does focus on the family unit a little more than it does. And then he branches out to like, you know, do they go out for coffee, or do they go out for an experience, or do they go out for um to go shopping?
I see. Okay. Yeah.
So that's where he focuses more. And I'm still not done with the singles version, but
Okay.
it's pretty impactful to kind of see how he shifts it to a different demographic, a different group of people. So
Yeah. Yeah. And it totally makes sense that too.
it totally makes sense. In every context, he has specific stories for singles. Most of them have to do with, church groups and going to single church like mixers, but it really opens it up to, okay, here's how you apply the love languages to dating.
Yeah. Well, because they can be applied to just about anything in
Yeah,
our daily
just
life,
about anything.
just about anything.
Yeah, I
Work
mean,
relationships and everything is a relationship.
yeah,
Everything is a relationship, beginning from the self, beginning like, and the relationship with God, creator, source, however, each person wants to call
right.
it, and that therefore the people that gave us birth and da 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 and so on.
Yeah,
Everywhere we look,
yeah,
even like the relationship with our pets, for being
yeah,
like pets,
yeah. And I think of a relationship as layers. We all have layers. It's kind of like Shrek. I think I've used that.
I say like an onion, but I'm like, it's very like,
But I don't really have a chart for this, but think of like the self, and then other people, and then your dating relationships. It really
family.
fluctuates for everyone. I mean,
Yeah.
family could come first, but like, I think it really starts with the relationships that mean the most to you, whether that is family. For some people it's family, for some people it's the self. And it's really built, the separate books is really built to start where you're at, is what I got from it.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So
That is beautiful. Yeah. Also because I believe we go through different phases, right? In our life, growing from children to adulthood, and it's good to discover how um in different part of our lives there are different type of relationships that are more important to us, right? And
yeah,
therefore like, yeah.
Yeah, and just as everyone has a different love languages, um, having a different emphasis in what's important to a person is different as well.
Yeah,
So whether you value family relationships or you value work relationships, I mean, balance in all things is my
of course.
motto, but people start in different ways. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Personally, thanks also to theta healing. But
yeah.
I personally would say that when I realized that all my past relationships where I failed these relationships, I started doing the work on myself. And then I shifted. I mean, I shifted. I kept doing, I still am. I keep working on myself. And then, of course, like the relationship, cultivating and improving the relationship with myself. But then I started working when I realized that I really wanted to have like a long lasting, committed relationship for the rest of my life, to have a partner by my side.
Mhm.
I started working a lot on my relationship with my mother, because I only have my mother alive, but and my twin sister. And you know that.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's important to work on the relationship with one's parents to
I
really
think so.
clean that up and really get that to the best shape it can be in. I mean, it's, for everybody it's different. We all have different stuff. We all
Totally.
have
Yeah.
different stuff we go through, but the parental relationship is what is generally carried forward, as well as the family relationship.
Yeah.
Like, if it's, always been, like we said before, the man goes to work, and if that's the old fashioned way that we've grown up, we tend to want to perpetuate that, in my experience anyway.
I think so. I think so. Yeah.
So
That is like, can take a whole new chapter talking about limiting beliefs, right?
right, exactly.
Coming from, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And theta healing has helped me as well. Reiki has really helped me too, on how to really pinpoint where my energy is and where my relationships are, and what really has improved over time is, again, how I relate to myself, how I relate to other people. That has all shifted, in some cases, of 180. It's like, now I can see the love language, or I can see what's going on and why a person's doing this, in my own
Yes.
relationships. And that
Yeah.
makes things a
Probably
lot
it's easier
easier.
also to see. Oh, sorry for interrupting you.
That's okay. And I was just saying that makes things easier.
Yeah. And it becomes easier to see where we have made mistakes. And now, because we're more aware and self-aware, we can start making corrections.
Exactly. So, and you know, maybe shifting from failures to learnings. It's like, okay, failure really isn't the failure, that society perpetuates.
Totally.
It's more of like, what did we learn from this experience over here?
Yes.
So,
Turning, I like to say, turning struggles into blessings, when we realize that we've been having like, oh, I really need to learn this. I'm having such a hardship and challenge right now, but how can I turn it around and learn from it? Which is, yeah.
yeah, and that's kind of where this whole conversation came from, is like, let's talk about the love languages. It's awesome. So,
Yeah.
mm,
Oh, yeah. And when I told you, right? Like my partner and I, we talked about the love languages on the second date. And that was like a good sign for me to figure out that he was doing his work and he's done his work.
right. So it's been really awesome catching up with you. What else do you have going on that you'd like to tell everyone about?
Oh, thank you. So I have plenty of events actually happening right now that I just launched like a new mentorship. It's like theta healing, astro herbalism with potions, like it's all blended together, and it's called Cloudless Mind. We and there is like nutrition's informations, and it's like a lot of fun. So a lot of theta healing, some potions, and some nutrition stuff with my student, actually, that she's a nutritional coach. So Cloudless Mind mentorship, and yeah, I started teaching online theta healing, which is a lot of fun. So basically once or twice a month I'm hosting different classes, as you know. I hope you can, maybe we can co-host something really soon.
Yes, that would be really wonderful.
It will be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
this is
And
what's up. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
And
actually, sorry, I want to tell you this other thing because I'm so happy about it and so stoked and super excited. On February 22nd, I'm launching, like I'm yeah, hosting like a gratitude challenge for 22 days. So
that's
it's
gonna be amazing.
22 for 22 days of gratitude. This is gonna be a lot of fun.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And of course, I will leave links to that in the description,
Thank
and so
you.
you can find Simona's website, her theta healing profile, to see her courses and such. And I have courses coming up as well. I do one-on-one sessions, and I just love seeing people grow and embrace their true potential. So it's been wonderful. Thank you for coming,
Thank
and
you so much, Stacey.
we'll see you all later.